what I really want to talk about is how money works, or how people pay their taxes. Who pays for the PR stunts of our city services? And who pays for these things are...
What product does the government produce and sell to create their profit? There is none, is there? There's no product. Anything that's paid for is paid for off the what? Backs of the people.
Hey everybody, this is John Smith with John Rutan with R.O.A.R, Reclaim Our American Republic. We're just doing a little sideshow tonight, and we want to talk about how money is spent, taxpayer money, when we have PR stunts or events such as like the parade event.
Well, any event.
Yeah,
any event.
Yeah, right. Like the lemonade episode through the summertime, where the sheriff department went out to the lemonade stands and did a PR stunt where the sheriff department took pictures with the children, and it was warm and fuzzy. It was really nice. It was really cool. They did put it on Facebook, and you can go see it. And I thought it was absolutely neat too. But the first thing that draws to my mind is who paid for that? I know here it is the holiday season, and this is sort of Scrooge-ish, and it's sort of taboo to talk about that.
No, it's really not.
Well, it has sort of been taboo to talk about that, though. Let's be fair here. I mean, it's frowned upon.
Let's look realistically, though. If we didn't waste money on foolish things, we would have more money for real things.
Yeah, but
right?
that foolish is going to be arbitrary, right, to the individual, or.
But that's why taxes are on the evil side, because I don't get to choose. Now, see, there's a little thing called land patent. I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but if you've got land patent land, that means that you don't pay taxes to the township. So if you don't pay taxes to the township, you don't get any services on that property. So if I put a house on that property and that house burns, I can't call the fire department because I haven't put into the fire department fund for that. It's called land patent land.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that there's ways to buy land.
Sure, it's called land patent land.
And
it's tough to get and it's hard to do, but there is land patent land. In fact, where Menards is sitting in Jackson, all that property was land patent land, the man that owned that. Now, what he had the ability to do was he went to the township and said, look, I don't want police or school, but I want fire, so how much do I owe for that? So he paid his portion.
Tax?
Yeah, so he paid his portion.
Into the millage or general fund or whatever
into the township fund for fire.
Okay, so I don't even know how John, how do the taxes even get paid for in the first place? I mean, it's based off your property tax, I'm assuming.
Sure, it's based off property tax and the worth of the home. So they try to disguise it like it's the market that's controlling it, when it's really not.
And that's a state level thing too.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and all this comes down to state law.
And
yeah, so
we definitely got to probably do a little bit more on that in the future.
Sure. But I just wanted to point out that these services that we receive are a choice, are supposed to be a choice. But in the taxation that we have now, they're no longer a choice.
Right.
So I pay taxes so that I've got school, whether I've got kids going to school, so that I've got a fire department, whether I want my house saved if it starts to burn or not, and so that I have police services, whether I want the police at my house or not. So these are things that should be choices. And so our free market and our liberty was supposed to be that I don't have to have something that you, the king, tells me I have to have because I'm not a subject. As a free person, I have choice to choose to buy that or to not buy that at my leisure. I'm not subjugated to anyone to have something.
You don't get to choose where your taxes go. You don't get to choose like, well, I want to pay a little bit on the park and I want to pay a little bit on the fire department.
And really, shouldn't we have that choice?
Well, I thought all taxes were voluntary in the first place.
Well, let's look at the Lois Lerner situation. The IRS agent in Cleveland that was denying conservative groups their 501c3 and not doing the same thing for liberal groups. That became a huge debacle. And there was if you watch C-SPAN, you could watch those hearings with the Senate and Congress, and there was 10 congressmen, that said, well, this is a voluntary tax system, and we need to maintain the public trust, if we're going to keep this voluntary tax system.
So it's a little bit disingenuous when it comes to tax season on April 15th, wouldn't you say?
Sure, because if I volunteer not to pay them, what's going to happen to me?
We understand that with the IRS, but check this out. So your local school, everybody gets this if they have children. The local school will send out a little piece of paper and say your kid needs pencils, your kid needs paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's the $50, $100 list that you need to buy supplies. Well, something that I've learned now that all that is actually supplied through the school. Like, so anything that my child necessarily needs for a grade, like whether it be a pencil because you need to write for a grade, whether it be paper because you need to write stuff down on paper for a grade, anything academic-wise has to be provided by the school. So why am I getting a piece of paper that says that I must provide these goods for my kids for school? So it's a little bit disingenuous.
Well, but the other thing is you have the right against illegal searches. Yeah. But if I search and you don't know anything about it, then really, what right did you have?
And, I don't know if I'm saying, am I saying this right though?
Yeah, you're saying it right. It comes down to, you are correct.
It's like not putting all the facts on the table.
Well, when schools were voluntary, when you could volunteer to send your children to public school, wasn't mandatory, it was there as a service. Then, yes, I could see them asking you to send your children with certain supplies. However, when the school became mandatory, a good friend of mine is a truancy officer over in Branch County, and I kind of was kidding him the other day. I said, "When did you go to the dark side, Bill?"
Oh, that's
and he
funny.
I said, so you're threatening parents if they don't send their kid to school, but what if they don't want their kid in public school? So you're telling them that they have to pay these taxes for a public school that may be teaching their children completely something opposite of what their morals and norms are and mores are, and yet you're telling them they have to do that. I said, Bill, that doesn't seem right to me now, does it? So when it became something mandatory and not voluntary anymore, this is where the rub comes in on me. If you're going to tell me I get to volunteer to pay for something, this same thing came up when President Trump was elected. There were some people on Facebook going, well, I don't want to have to pay for that wall, and I shouldn't have to pay for a wall that I don't agree with. And my answer to that was, I shouldn't have to pay for abortions I don't agree with through Planned Parenthood.
That's right, yeah.
But I have to, right? So what would be better? I think it'd be great that if the liberals think that that's a good thing, then if they want to put their money into it, they should be able to put their money into it. It's a free country. But if I don't want to put my money into it, I shouldn't be extorted to have to. I should be able to opt out. I should be able to choose where my money goes. So thereby, if I want my money to go to a wall, then I can choose to send my money to a wall, and you can choose to send your money to the abortion clinic if you want to, or I'm sorry, Planned Parenthood. So, what's wrong with that? We live in the 21st century. We're able to do that with everything else, right?
Well, I know we digressed deep into the taxation loop here, and I agree with you. I mean, I think all taxes are voluntary in the first place, or should be.
I think all taxes are theft.
Yeah, well, they are, but they should be voluntary in the first place. That's what they were designed for.
Mm-hmm.
And but we do have things that would be, I don't want to say this, more questionable than others. I know that's going to be arbitrary to the individual too, but like something like a fire department is a prime example. Out of all the city service that you get, in my opinion, the fire department is the most important, particularly when you get into a city where houses are really butt up on each other.
Sure, close together. Look at the Chicago fire.
Yeah, exactly, or Detroit when that burnt down.
Yeah.
So fire department out of all the city services in my mind, I'm like, well, that's probably something we do need, but I know that's arbitrary to the individual because maybe the individual don't want to pay for that fire department. But if his house burns down and it burns my house,
right?
It's nasty.
But, I mean, let's look at no fault insurance in the state of Michigan. Same thing. No fault insurance is supposed to be me insuring my property, right? I buy a car and I don't want to lose the value of that car, so I insure it. Why is it that then you, if you don't care about your investment, have to have insurance to drive? See, if I've got PLPD, which I have to have the very minimum to drive, and anything happens to my car, I'm screwed. Even if it wasn't my fault, even if it was somebody in a Cadillac that's insured with full coverage runs into me, I get nothing from my vehicle in a no-fault state.
Right.
But yet I'm still forced to have insurance to be able to drive. Does that make sense? Should I be forced to have insurance on your house because it's next to mine for a fire department? Because I'm worried that if your house catches on fire, it might burn mine? No. I should pay for the insurance on my house, which is pay for the fire service so that my house is saved if I want to save my property, right?
Right.
I shouldn't have to have you pay part of that cost so that my house is protected. Same way with insurance on no-fault insurance. I shouldn't have to pay for you just so that I have the privilege to exercise my right of free travel in the conveyance of the day.
So we get into the smaller taxation, which is just as important as the big taxation. There is
Doesn't matter
no.
if it's a penny or a million.
Yeah, exactly. So like theft is theft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was looking at the local parade that just went on down in Hillsdale here, and it looked fun. It looked like it was a good time.
Yeah, it was.
You partaked with Dr. Kareem, and
Yeah, we participated.
yeah, you were in it. And I seen the fire truck. Montgomery was talking about they had the best fire truck, and they had
Yeah, it
lights.
had a lot of lights on it. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, but the first thing that came to my mind, and thanks to Tim Shufflin, our buddy, because he got me always thinking about this, is the first thing that came to my mind is who paid for it.
Because that's his motto. Who
So,
pays for it? Who pays for it?
So I'm thinking like, well, darn, who did pay for it? Then I'm thinking like trunk or treat. Then I'm thinking about like the lemonade stand with the sheriff department. And I know at the end of the day, it's like a double plus for these departments, because not only do they have this good PR that's out there, but when it's time to get money, when they feel that they need money, they're heroes. They're cool people. They're
9/11 made everybody with a badge and a uniform a hero.
Right. So
Which
they'll
was
get
a little disingenuous, but
when the sheriff comes out and takes pictures with my kids, of course they're heroes, right? So they get hero status, and my first question is, who paid for the cops to come out there? Who paid for the fuel for them to drive out there?
Who paid for the fuel in the parade?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of these officers or a lot of the fire department, they volunteer their time, and they're great people. I'm not discounting them by any means.
They're golden.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who pays for the small stuff like that. And is it something that is necessary? Now, when you go ask someone, like today I asked Scott Hepner, is it something that is necessary that we need? And he thought that we did need it. He didn't really have a reason why. He just thought that it was a good thing.
Well, I can see Scott's point. Especially in America today, we've forgotten how to be neighbors to one another.
Right, and he was very, very neighborly when I was talking to him.
We are horrible in this country today compared to what we were 50 years ago. As far as neighbors, neighbors always used to help neighbors. You knew who the people were that lived around you.
They probably had block parties.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody knew everybody.
Right,
close to them. And now it's kind of like we don't even want to know, because I might have to wave at them when I go outside.
Yeah, everybody's sort of became sort of weird.
Well,
honestly,
it's become this litigious society that we've become, that we're living in.
What's the word?
Litigious.
What's that mean, John?
Very legal beagles, always concerned with the law and legality and the
always
letter
looking
of
over
the
your
law.
shoulder.
Sure, because somebody might sue me. Well, you know what? If you're going to live your life afraid of being sued your whole life, then you're never going to live. So.
Also, maybe like I'm better than everybody else type mentality. I see it particularly even in my own family.
But that kind of breeds that isolationism within your own community, breeds that. And so I can see the point that Scott's making. Is the parade necessary? Yes, it's good because it brings people out together. It gives them a sense of civic pride and spirit and goodwill.
Okay, so that draws from my next question: is should taxpaying dollars pay for civil pride?
No, it shouldn't. And so I'm still a believer that taxation is theft. So I still think that people shouldn't be forced to participate in civic pride. I think it's people that have civic pride should have the ability to come together, right, to peaceably assemble and celebrate whatever it is that they want to celebrate. I think that people have the right to do that.
They have a right to pay to play,
but they have the right to pay for that.
Right, like our state parks, for an example.
That's right.
As a prime example, you pay for it, the tab on your license plate.
Sure,
$12 or $15.
Sure,
or
I don't,
it is.
because I don't go to the state park.
Well, there you go. Right, and I do. I go.
I
right?
don't, so I don't want to pay for it.
Right. So like your local park. I mean, all these parks that we got throughout Hillsdale County. People are being robbed from to pay for these. But like I live by McCordy Park, which is probably one of the, if not the best park in Hillsdale County, in my opinion. But I'm forced to pay for this park, and whatever they do for amenities or upgrades or whatever, I'm forced to pay it. I don't have a choice.
I mean, my wife and I, we enjoy going to Lake Bobby's and using that park there, and so we don't have a problem paying for the ability to use that, because we do. But I wouldn't expect you in Somerset to have to pay for me to be able to enjoy a park in Hillsdale. That's just not right.
I wouldn't expect you in Somerset, say you lived in Somerset and I live in Somerset, I wouldn't expect you to pay for a park that you choose not to use.
No, well, that's exactly it. I shouldn't have to.
I find it weird that this has sort of became the norm. You talk to 99% of the people, I'm being generalizing here, and you tell them this, they roll your eyes at you like...
It's because it's apathy. It's the thing of, Well, you know what? That really doesn't mean that much to me. It's pennies. I mean, well, let's look at it. You guys had a road issue up there in Somerset Center, if I remember right.
Yeah,
recently, in which what came out in that entire debate was that the township had already paid for the roads to be paved.
Yeah.
And yet there were some people that said, well, I don't care if we're going to pay for it again. I just want it done, because they make that kind of money that it didn't mean that much to them.
Well, it was a road on Lake Somerset, and to be clear, Lake Somerset has multi-millionaires on it. It's a very nice community, and
it's the tail that wags the dog of Hillsdale.
Right. So
that's where we get all of our revenue.
And this is all hearsay from a friend of mine, but my friend said that he overheard him saying this, is that he didn't care if it was paid over 3 or 4 times, as long as it got done. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, he's probably a multi-millionaire. I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck. So,
sure. Completely different perspective.
Yeah, to me, I don't want to pay for it 2 or 3 times.
Right.
I don't use the road. I can give 2 shits about the road.
But see, the thing is, with perspective is everything. And, a lot of times us conservatives or us constitutionalists get beat up with, well, you guys don't care about the poor and the needy. No, we really do, because even Madison talked about it. Madison talked about that we needed to take care of those that couldn't, but it needed to be done on a local level, not on a national level. That's where the problem comes in. So I still believe that there's some people that can't afford certain things that they want to do, that they should be able to do, part of civic pride or whatever. But see, that's where the giving nature, we're in the giving season, right? Christmas, that's where the giving nature comes in. I don't know of any major world religion that doesn't have some parable of giving to those less fortunate. I just don't know of one. So that's part of what we should do. So those that don't care if they pay for it 4 or 5 times as long as it gets done, then they, if they so deem to be philanthropic with their money and help those
right.
less fortunate, then they should. Oprah Winfrey does it. That's fine. But the other thing is, Oprah Winfrey, being a liberal, wants me to pay more in my taxes so that they can have Planned Parenthood, which she could probably pay for the whole thing herself, and she doesn't pay any extra taxes, right? She could, but she doesn't, because we got a voluntary tax system, so she could pay extra if she wanted to, but she doesn't. So this is where my problem comes in. So if those that want to help out those that are less fortunate, want to be philanthropic and do it, then do it.
Yeah, so
but don't force me
through
right. legislation to do it when I may not have that same perspective.
Or through your local government.
That's right.
That president, being a multimillionaire, probably could have paid for the road and probably not hurt his pocketbook, honestly. It's draw for concern that people out there have no problem stealing from others, and they don't realize that it's stealing.
Because just like you said, that sinful nature, after it becomes the norm, then we don't really think of it as sin. It's just normal, right?
That goes back to on our first show, we were talking about people know right from wrong, and me and you sort of disagree, I think, on this. I really, truly don't think people know that they're stealing or they're wrong.
No, they do. But what happens is, Jiminy Cricket says, let your conscience be your guide.
Right.
Sometimes we drowned Jiminy Cricket out on our shoulder. That my wife accuses me of that all the time, of having a selective hearing. We become very selective hearing when it comes to our conscience, because that sin becomes the norm. So even though we know it's stealing, I used to get this all the time. People go, well, Rutan, it's a gray area. Well, a lot of people complain about me that I see everything in black and white, and I do. There is no gray area. There's black and white. Gray area is created by humanists to self-justify where they're standing. Because if you mix the black and the white together, you get gray. So what happens is most people just don't have the honesty enough or the chutzpah to look you straight in the eye and go, yep.
Yeah, and this is something
I'm stepping over the line,
and
I'm okay with
that
it.
Me and you talk about
right.
quite often, is because people.
But most people can't do that. So what they have to do for their own emotional state, or for their friends, or for their social group, they're over the line. And so what they do is they mix the two together and go, oh, it's really just a gray area. We're okay.
Yeah,
we're okay.
Like even I went to the town hall meeting tonight in Hillsdale.
City council meeting.
Meeting, and is it Greg Stuchel?
Greg Stuchel, yes.
Yeah, so it was very apparent that Greg was against selling or buying the airport hangars. Everybody else
I don't know that it was apparent that he was against it.
Well,
I think it was apparent that he was a very critical thinker.
He was.
But I think the other thing is, he's one of the new people on the council. And you can always tell new people on the council because they don't just kind of go along to get along.
Like
They've got questions.
What I keep saying this disingenuous. Like, I see a lot of people do this a lot instead of just saying what's on their mind. I think he could have asked more questions that was truly on his mind, but didn't spit it out on the board, because people do this because they don't want to feel a certain way. They don't want
it's called political correctness.
Yeah, well, that's
because
the same
I
thing.
don't want people to frown on me.
But I see it with family. I see it like within
happens
your
everywhere.
neighbors. I see it with
But politics are everywhere. It happens everywhere.
So I struggle with it because I call people out on it a lot of times.
Sure, I do too, and that really irritates them.
It can, but sometimes it brings you closer with people too. And I just see it nonstop. So even our friend Steve Brennan that came today, and he was talking about Comcast. We had a contract with Comcast, I guess, with our township, and he wanted everybody in the township to pay for Comcast $10 and raise everybody $10 on their taxes, and everybody gets free internet or whatever it was. And I was like, Steve, you can't do that because that's stealing. Maybe someone doesn't want internet.
Well, not only that, how many people live there full time? Very few.
Well, regardless.
I know, but very few. So what you're doing is you're forcing somebody from Toledo to pay for to pay $10 more on their property taxes in Somerset, so that everybody around Somerset gets free internet. That's not very right.
Right. Well, he didn't even recognize when he was saying it. He didn't recognize he was stealing from other people. That's why I think that some people, or most people, probably don't realize they're thinking they're doing the good. It's that good intentions. They think they're doing the good intentions.
Because after the talk, he realized it, didn't he?
Well, he did.
So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes what we've done is because we've lived so long, quieting that conscience down, getting that selective hearing where we don't hear that conscience anymore, that we still know that it's right or wrong. Sometimes somebody has to. Well,
that's what I'm saying. He can't. He doesn't see the light. And
somebody has to remind us of that voice, and then we start hearing that voice again and go, "Oh yeah, that's right." Not right.
Well, that's another thing is when you say something to someone and they, just like Steve today, he understood and he kind of changed his position. He's like, "Well, maybe we can opt. People that don't want it can opt out of it." I'm like, "Well, there you go.
That makes it more fair.
That makes it sense. You're not stealing from people, and they can opt out of it.
Sure, and the people that want it can get it.
Well, why can't I opt out of the parade?
You can, because you don't have to join it.
No. I don't want to pay for the parade. I don't want the $100 that it takes to drive the truck over there.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
I want to opt out of that.
You should be able. Well, here's the thing.
I want to opt out of a lot of these taxes.
My thing is, I've never. Hillsdale County does the thing where I can't remember what Saturday it is, but all the fire departments go out and they'll stand at the different intersections all around the county with their turnout gear on and a boot. And as you drive by, you can just throw money in the boot.
Wait.
It's a fundraiser.
They do that here?
Yeah, they do that in Hillsdale County. It's a fundraiser. I've never seen. I've rarely. I can't say never, but I've rarely ever seen anybody drive by and not throw money in the boot.
I didn't even know they did that.
Oh yeah.
Here. Okay.
In fact, what I'll do is I'll go out and hit a couple intersections that day just to throw money in the boot.
Why don't I? This is kind of where we're going with this topic is what happened to fundraising.
But see, that's the thing. I don't mind paying that $100 for that truck to be there because I enjoyed seeing that fire truck and all the lights.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come to me and ask, would you help fund that? Yes, I will. If at all possible, you'll get some extra money from me.
So fundraising is sort of like the next idea, because when I was talking to Scott, I'm like, hey, what happened to fundraising? Have we lost that knowledge of fundraising? He said, in his opinion, he said yes. We have moved away from the fundraising. Now he did tell me some options of some third-party fundraising groups. I'm sure that will say raise $12,000, they take half and then give half to the department because they're doing all the work, which is great. It's small potatoes when we're talking about say a fire truck.
Well, if you remember when I was running for sheriff, I said the same thing. People ask me, what about grants? Are you going to take grants? And I said, no, I will not take grants.
Yeah, Scott said he doesn't
because
like
grants
too.
are stolen money. Will I take foundation money? Yes, because that's philanthropic money. That's money given philanthropically. But grant money, no. Grant money is stolen money.
No, I agree.
And so I will not take grants. And they said, well, how are you going to raise the money that you need? I said, you know what? People of Hillsdale County will support their sheriff's department. They will. There's money in this county that people will give to support the things that they want. Now, if we can't get enough money to support something, then that means that the people don't want it. And so we probably shouldn't have it if the people aren't going to support it, right? That's called free market economy. That's what we practice. Now, you'll get other people go, oh, no, it's a social contract. No, it's not. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So I was telling Scott, if we got they're going to be deciding on how they're going to get this new ladder truck. They already talked about it tonight to say prepare for it, guys.
Yeah.
And so
That's a lot of money.
I know what they're going to do is they're going to do a special millage for that truck. I mean, that's just the way that they're going to run that. And I don't know how much that, whatever that is, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, whatever it is for a fire truck, and maybe try to do some sort of like, whether it be some sort of state level or federal level grant or whatever, maybe payback or something like that, maybe some whatever. But there's probably going to be a millage more than likely, I would assume.
Sure.
But instead of going to a special millage for something like that, why don't they put a pay me button on their website saying donate, or why don't they go hit up some of the big houses?
Or what about if we had a millage where you can come vote to put that on your property taxes and only your property taxes?
Like a
I
voluntary.
can't vote to put it on your property tax. So let's say only 12% of the people show up.
Oh hell, we don't even have to promote that. Just say you could come in and opt out if you want to.
Yeah, okay. Let's
at least give them the option.
Let's do it an opt out instead. Say, okay, here's the millage. Here's the millage pass. Anybody that wants to opt out can opt out. You know what? I think that would be more fair, and I wouldn't have a problem with that because if you didn't come and opt out, you got nothing to complain about.
Yeah, because you're not involved. Or anything.
Stay home and shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you're going to get involved and going to come in and you're going to opt out, then you can't complain anyway because you're not paying for it.
Right.
So again, my suggestion is shut up.
Is there a way? Do you think there's with the way that
sure, there's a way to do anything.
These townships and cities and whatnot act like
we live in the 21st century. For goodness' sake,
we got computers. They can make any option they want.
I can turn a blower fan on an HVAC system in Pennsylvania from my house on an iPad.
I can
so give me a break.
Automatic my house from abroad.
Yeah, so don't try to do this. Oh well, we just can't do that. Oh yes, we can. We just don't want to because it's easier to steal from everybody.
But so you think all these people that are in local government, where do you think all their consciences kind of just faded away and they just they're not seeing the light?
They're good people.
They are.
They're all good people.
Be honest with you, I don't even know if I met a bad person.
But the problem is the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and everybody goes in with the best of intentions. Or this is one thing that just always drives me nuts, and I hate it. When people go, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's the way we've always done it. Okay, well, just because you've always done it wrong doesn't mean that you should continue to do it wrong. When you get better knowledge of something, shouldn't you try to do it better?
Even if you're going to call yourself a constitutionalist and a realist, and a realist is probably going to align with us 80% of the time, but what about that other 20% of the time?
Yeah. Wrong is wrong. So either call it. Don't try to say it's a gray area. Don't try to mix the two together and say, well, it's a gray area. No, admit, I'm over the line and I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay.
Yeah, like you don't want to be.
And here's why.
Yeah, I'll take 80% goodness and then 20% I don't want the frowning on.
Here's another good example. Brad Rogers, after that shooting at the church, our friend Brad Rogers put a.
Why don't you tell the audience who Brad Rogers is?
Oh, Brad Rogers is currently right now until the next election. He's done 2 terms as the sheriff of Elkhart County,
Indiana.
Of Indiana, Elkhart, Indiana. Super nice guy. A great constitutionalist. He's a member of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. He had the federal government was screwing with one of his constituents, trying to throw him in jail for selling raw milk to some people that wanted to buy raw milk. And Brad did the right thing as the sheriff and interposed himself between the federal government and the farmer and ended something that very quickly that didn't need to go any further, that the government was gearing up to make an example out of someone, pretty much like they did the Amishmen in Kentucky for selling the chickweed. So Brad understands the Constitution, and what's even more rare is he's got the backbone to actually stand for it. And so anyway, Brad, after that school shooting, he put out, this is why he believes in the Second Amendment, and this is why he carries when he goes to church. And so I wrote on there, I said, well, in Michigan, you can't carry in a church because it's against the law in Michigan, even with a CPL to carry in church. So you can't conceal carry in the church by the law. And somebody said, well, that's kind of unfortunate. And I said, well, and I don't see how that could be a law in Michigan because churches are private property. So I don't believe that the government has the ability to make a law on private property for me.
If that's the case.
So that would be like them saying, well, you can't have
stadium?
a gun. Well, they say you can't have a gun in John Rutan's house. Well, wait a minute. No, that's my house. I get to make the property. I get to make the rules here. As long as you're legal to have a gun, you can have a gun at my house. Let's just leave it at that. My thing was, and I said this, I said, well, when I go to church, more than likely, I'm carrying 2. And somebody said, well, that's against the law, you just said. And I said, yes, but I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, because I know I'm not going to use it to hurt anyone, but I will use it to defend other people. Right. If a lone wolf comes in that door trying to hurt people. And so at that instance, what I was demonstrating was, I wasn't saying it's a gray area. I'm saying, yes, I'm fully 100% stepping over the line. This is why.
You think everybody is sort of just trying to run in the shade of gray to kind of satisfy.
Well, it makes them feel better about themselves. They don't have to go, I'm wrong.
Well, it's also fighting the masses is tough, man.
Sure,
so like if you
because people will judge you harshly when you go, yeah, I'm wrong and I'm okay with it.
Or if you say you got 50 people that want to do taxation on another, say, 30 people, so you got 50 to 30, so that's the majority, and everybody thinks we're a democracy.
Well, yeah, that's part of the problem.
And so you get this 50 on 30, and you're the one that's going to have to make the judgment call. A lot of people want to feel safe and make the good judgment call against the 30 people instead of the 50.
No, well, my thing is this. That's the huge difference between a democracy and a republic.
Yeah, but would that ride into the self-evident truth realm?
Well, absolutely. Just because I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? You can't take any of those from me, but by due process. That's the very heart. That's the very core of the principles that we believe in that have created this great country. Those are the very core principles. Life, I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's not given to me by my government. It's given to me by my Creator. And no one can take my life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness from me, my property, without due process. But we've decided that if 50 vote to take money from me for the privilege of me living on the property I already bought, even though I was one of the 30 that voted against it, I still have to pay it because the 50 said, okay, now that's not due process. I have just had my pursuit of happiness taken from me without due process. That's not due process. So taxation should be the people that want it pay for it. This is a beautiful thing, because then these programs that we have that everybody hates, that wouldn't get funded. And if it doesn't get funded, then it doesn't go.
A good example would be like domestic harmony. Now, I don't know if every township in the county has to pitch into this, or obviously they don't have to, but I know from the townships that I've been to for the town hall meetings and when we're doing the sheriff campaign, I've seen a lot of townships pay into domestic harmony.
Sure.
And I thought that, well, again, learning from Tim Shufflin, that's something that used to be considered illegal before even the law was just recently somehow the
legislature made something illegal legal.
Right, exactly.
With the swipe of a pen.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that something?
Well, and it makes me wonder, and I don't know if someone can help us out. I don't know how Eric, our state representative Eric Luthenhauser is Leuthäuser, how he's tied in with domestic harmony, and I got to draw for a question.
It doesn't matter whether he's tied in or not. Everybody wants to do that picture at the lemonade stand, right? Because it looks good.
It just sends up red flags. That's
I know,
all.
But everybody wants their picture taken at the lemonade stand because it looks good, right?
So
so you want to be the guy that gave to domestic harmony because, let's face facts, it makes you look good.
Well, John, I want to donate to KKK or some white supremacist group, or say I want to get Big Feet Anonymous, or if I want to give to Children's Hospital. I don't get to choose where this money goes.
And this is where the problem comes in. I remember at the Somerset Center Township Board meeting when that came up as a question. They wanted to vote on giving $300 to domestic harmony.
They did. They ended up doing it.
Well, there was somebody in the audience that stood up, said, "Look, I'll put $100 in now. Don't put tax money in. I'll donate $100. Let's collect a tax.
No, do you know what it was?
Let's just collect it right here in this room."
No, what it was actually, it wasn't in regards to domestic harmony. I don't think. I believe it was that church with a pump, and I said, "Listen, I'll give my own $100. Don't take it from the people."
Yeah.
That's what that was regards. But regardless, Tim said that he would. Oh, do you know what it was? Was Tim said he stood up. This was
because Tim was telling me, he said they raised more money. They were able to raise more money from donations for the people in that group.
What it was
than what they would have given in tax money.
Tim said he stood up and he said that he would give whatever he put in. He wanted the board. He would match whatever the board members would throw in. So, like, say if it was $300, Tim said that he'd give $300 his own money as long as the board members took their own money and matched it.
Yeah, and not tax money.
And don't take it from the people. Not one board member gave up a single dollar.
No, but there was other people in the audience that were willing to give.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in the audience would be. That's the thing.
So they would have raised more from a collection of the audience. See, and that's the thing.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with. The fundraising seems like it wouldn't be difficult.
Let's go back to something that Benjamin Franklin talked about, and this is a self-evident truth when it comes to taxes. He said when we were giving money to the crown voluntarily, he said it was rare that they didn't send us back 50 in silver because we'd paid too much. He said, but when the king started to tax us, we could never pay enough. We could never give enough. More. He said, so when the prince got greedy, the prince was never satisfied. He was always in want of more. This is a self-evident truth. When you ask people to give, people will give. When you force people to give, when you steal from them, then they will do everything they can to try to hide money from you.
Yeah, it's like a rebellion.
Sure. Look at the IRS. If people were to give their money freely and not be under the threat of anything, they would probably raise more money than they need. But whenever they start coming down and going, okay, well, we got all this, and we're gonna audit you and do all this stuff. We're gonna treat you nasty on the phone. We're gonna threaten you. What happens? People start to hide their assets. They try to use as many loopholes as they can to not pay as much, right? And then the government's always, well, we don't get enough. We need to have more. We need more taxes, right? So they're never satisfied. It's a self-evident truth. So the more they want, the more they need, and they'll never be satisfied. However, in this republic that we have, if people were to give freely when they need things, then they would always raise the money that they need for what they need.
Yeah,
and if they couldn't raise the money, it's because it's not important enough to the people. So there you go. You don't need it.
Obviously, fundraising is like a lost knowledge for city services.
Well,
I swear.
there was and that's what I said when I ran for sheriff. There was an old movie called Support Your Local Sheriff. Had Glenn Ford.
Why don't you show your age here, John?
Oh, sorry. Well, anyway, I think it had Glenn Ford in it, and but anyway, it was a really good movie. But Support Your Local Sheriff.
Who? Glenn Ford?
Yeah.
Who the hell's that?
You young kids, you don't know good actors anymore. But anyway, when I was running for sheriff, I said the same thing. If the sheriff needed something, there's nothing wrong with having a hog roast at somebody's place in a certain township, because we need money for an officer in that area. And if people truly want an officer in that area,
that'd be kind of neat.
They'd come out to a hog roast and they'd support it.
Yeah, that'd be like have the local
sure.
Like Artesian Wells, he does a lot of cooking and
sure.
does like ribs or whatever.
Sure.
And they could do like some sort of event. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
I know people that do that. I mean, we've got a man I went
like
to
a block party.
A man I went to school with, Dale Vaughn, very talented, has Dale Vaughn Band. I'm sure that his civic pride, he would. I mean, Dale does a lot of things, but I think he would would probably support something like that and come do the entertainment. So if someone was to ask him, I don't want to speak for him and say that, but I'm just saying that's one example. There's a lot of local talent. There's a lot of people.
We just really honestly have forgotten how to fundraise and how to ask for help. These city services, it's so much easier just to take the money. I asked Scott, and he's like, I'm like, is this something we lost? He said, yes. He said it was just... in his opinion, it was just easier to take the money from the taxes.
Sure, because you don't have to go anywhere with your hat in hand. You don't have to ask. It's forced.
Well, John,
it's just there.
John, you're a safe Christian. I would say that I'm almost a safe Christian. I'm not. I'm butting heads with salvation.
You're struggling, but you're getting there.
So it doesn't take a religious or spiritual person to understand that.
No.
Thou shalt not steal. So. I love being able to throw this into the faces of, say, your Christian right here. We got a lot of religious people in Hillsdale County.
Yeah.
A lot of Christians.
But a lot of them like to make gray area, too.
Yeah. I'm just going to call it for what it is. It is theft.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you're going to be able to justify that in your head. Okay, so let's just use the analogy. If I got in the car of everybody's car in Hillsdale County, and let's just say I took a nickel out of your car tonight, John. I jumped in, grabbed a nickel. You don't get to dictate where that nickel goes. I'm going to give it to a good charity.
Well, you're going to give it maybe not to a good charity. You're going to give it to whatever you want to give it to.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Say I'm going to go for a good cause, whatever that good cause may be.
Yeah, if you decide the KKK, see, I'm going to be upset with that because that was my nickel.
Well, that might be a good cause.
Yeah.
So say I give it to the Children's Hospital. That's where my daughter, my daughter was born with some issues, and I had to take her to Children's Hospital. I like that charity. So I'm going to take that nickel out of everybody's car. Now, it's just a nickel, and what's a nickel going to cost you a night?
Yeah, most people are going to go, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's not nothing. That's nothing. But after getting your car 2-3 nights in a row, when do you tell me to stop?
Yeah, and when is it theft?
When is it enough? When's enough?
But when is it theft? It was theft the very first nickel.
It was stolen from the first night.
Yeah. So this is our problem. We always go, oh, well, he only took a little bit. Doesn't matter.
What if the Salvation Army lady ringing the bell stopped you and grabbed your pocket and grabbed a nickel out of it and said, and we're taking this?
Or what if it was forced that every time you went into Walmart, let's say we said
it's like a toll road.
Well,
almost.
let's say Walmart says, you know what, we don't want people standing out there being cold and ringing that bell. So what we're going to do is on every purchase, we're going to charge you 0.5% on every purchase.
Yeah.
That'll go to Salvation Army.
In fact, we see that a lot now already. But that's not.
I wouldn't have a problem with that, but there's other people that would. But here's the difference: Walmart, I can choose to go in there and do it or not. I don't have to go there. I can go to somewhere else and buy that product.
There's places like Dollar General that, they'll ask you, will you donate your change to whatever cause?
But they're asking. But what I'm saying is, if Walmart made it mandatory that 0.5% was going to go to the Salvation Army,
right.
If I didn't want to do that, I have a choice. I don't have to go to Walmart.
That's right.
The problem is when my government does it, I no longer have a choice because they have the monopoly on force.
And they should not be taxing you and giving your money away to charities.
Places I don't agree with, like Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, whatever the charity
I don't
may be.
agree with that. I don't care. I don't agree with it. My money should not be going to Planned Parenthood. Just like a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat's money should not be going for the southern border wall. I agree with that 100%. I will spend money for the wall because I believe in it. But I don't want even one of my pennies going to Planned Parenthood. I'm diabolically opposed to that. I think Oprah wants to, the top 3 Democrats in the United States, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates, I'm sure they can fund all of the Planned Parenthoods.
They can afford to build that wall.
Yeah, they could do that with pocket change.
Yeah, that's like ice cream.
So go do it, but stop forcing me to.
Well, that's sort of like where we're at is because I know it's small, petty, talking about a parade or lemonade stands, but no matter the amount of money that's spent, it's still stolen.
It's still theft.
It's still theft.
Theft is theft.
Theft is theft. And if you're a religious person, and I know we're going to have, probably 50 to 100 views on this, or maybe even if we had 30 or whatever, but I know a lot of them are going to be religious people.
Sure.
And I want them to really think about this for a second and think about what they're doing and think about how they're transitioning this to their children and to their, your children's children, because we're growing up thinking that theft is okay. Living in a life of sin is okay.
And what did Christ do? The money changers in the temple, right?
Well,
he didn't self-justify.
You don't have to be religious to understand that it is wrong.
Sure.
And at least let's think of other ways. See, I'm the kind of guy that believes in you can have your cake and eat it too. I think there's ways of doing it. We can think of other ideas, like fundraising is a prime example. So, like, if there's a millionaire that lives off of, whatever, one of these lakes out here, go to the millionaire's house and plead to him and be like, man, we really need this. Can you help us out? He might be able to support you and help you out, but we will never know if we don't go ask.
The thing is, if he doesn't know that there's a need, how can he?
Yeah, because 99% of the people, well, I wouldn't say that much, but let's just be fair, 80% of the people are not involved.
Well, I think that's very conservative even at that. I think it's way less than that.
Yeah,
the amount of people that are involved.
20% come out and vote, whatever it is. So,
but, that's kind of planned. That was planned by the progressive movement at the beginning of the 20th century. The more the government does for you, the more you it's just like if you're a healthy person, grab a pair of crutches and walk on crutches. What's going to happen to your legs? They're going to wither. You're not going to be able to use them anymore.
Right.
And this is exactly what they did to the United States. That's the slow boiling of the frog that we've done by Big Brother taking care of everything and taking care of everybody. And Big Brother's going to make everything right. What happened was the people atrophy. They became less of an advocate for themselves and being able to do things for themselves anymore because, that's the government's job to do that. So that's the government's job to take care of the poor. That's the government's job to take care of that homeless family down the way. That's not my job as the church or a Christian or a human being.
I wonder if we can lobby Adam Stockford into taking taxes and paying for our show here. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, let's see if we can. Well, you know what? I've always said theft is legal as long as there's a law that allows you to do it, right? Right? So that's the difference between what's legal and what's lawful. And so maybe we ought to just go to Eric Lloydhoiser and ask him if he'll put a special thing on the floor to raise taxes for our podcast.
That'd be great.
Because we need it.
I mean,
and I think people in Lansing would want to pay for it.
Our
here.
listeners and viewers, they enjoy it.
Yeah,
so it benefits all of us.
Yeah, it even benefits people that don't listen to it in the long run. So they should have to pay. See, this is that self-justification, that making gray area that we do. And we do it in the legislature, and we do it in all local government. Well, there's people that benefit that don't even know they benefit from it, so let's go ahead and take money from them.
So with the idea of having your cake and eat it too, we can have a fire truck. We don't have to do a special millage for that and take it from the people. We can go right to the people that do have the money and say, hey, we need a truck. Can you help us out? I believe that we will get that help.
Sure. And even if you go to the people and go, look, you know what? We'd like to put a tax on to get this, but we realize that that's theft. We can't find a donor to give the money, but without that truck, if your house caught on fire, we can't respond and put it out. So would you mind thinking about it over the next year? Give us
get a preparation for it.
Give us $5 or $10 a month.
These departments can get in the habit of doing something like that, where they prep big ticket items. They can start prepping themselves a year in advance or half a year in advance,
and
or
they
whatever
can go around to the people and go, look. It would be better if we had more people that were active in their own township and stuff and things like that. Here's another thing.
We could start fundraising for that truck, John.
But here's another thing. The church in America. And I'm going to get slings and arrows for this.
How many churches do we have in Hillsdale?
Yeah, you can't swing a cat without hitting one. Not that you should swing a cat. I don't want PETA mad at us here, but that's an old saying. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting one. But yeah, we've got lots of them. But the problem is in America, that the church has failed in any country when you have a national social welfare program.
Yeah,
because. Christ told
or a war on drugs.
He said that the poor will always be with us. And he said that's part of what we were supposed to do, is take care of the widows, the orphans, and those that were, what you do unto the least of my brethren, you do unto me. So these are the things that we were supposed to do. So why is it that we're not doing that at churches? Why is it that we have $250,000 building funds and only $250 benevolence funds? There's something really wrong with that.
Well, they do. They just do it in Haiti, John.
Well, yeah, but unless you're the Clinton Foundation, then you just say that you're going to do it there and keep the money.
Yeah, I mean, Philippines. It's always in these other nations. I always wonder that, because we got a lot of local people that are on drugs. We got a lot of local people that need help.
Here's the thing: there's a couple doctors in town here that every year take a mission trip to I think it's either Puerto Rico or Guam. It's another lemonade stand thing, the PR thing.
Yeah.
Look at us, we're going to give free health care to these kids and these people that are poor.
I'm not trying to sit and pass judgment on them.
But let me finish my point here.
Go ahead.
How many poor people are in Hillsdale that can't afford medical care, but if anybody went to those doctors, they're not going to give them free medical care? Why? Because the system and the politics within the hospital and the county and the insurance says, if you give them any free health care, well, then we're going to strip your license, or we're going to keep you from taking insurance, or we're going to cut you out of the hospital. So they have to go to foreign countries to give free medical care so that they can donate or give back, because really we're not supposed to give of our money. We're supposed to give of our talent. That's what Christ was talking about when he said, give of yourself. You're supposed to give of your talents. So if they want to give of their talents, they have to go to those places. Is it that, have we created such a society that it's that bad that you have to go to a foreign country to help people because you can't even help your neighbors anymore?
Well, I that's kind of strange that you say it's giving your talents, because I didn't even know that. It's weird because I can't charge people when they come to me, because I sell stuff online, and you know that. And so like when I sell something for you, I don't charge you. When I sell something for any of our friends or whatever, family, friends, whatever, anybody, I don't ever charge them. I can't find it in my heart to do so.
I do the same thing. I do a lot of free work for people.
A lot of labor work.
Yeah,
you just find yourself doing all this free stuff. It actually bogs us down quite a bit, doesn't it?
Well, it does. But the thing is, maybe I have to live with me.
Well, maybe that's what's installed in us. Like you were saying, that the good and evil, it's installed in us. And
well, I grew up in a family where my dad did that. If somebody was in need, there wasn't any question. We helped, and we didn't have a lot of money, but what we had was talent and skill. And so when people needed the talent and skill, we went and helped. That's what we did.
So just to round it out here, so obviously all taxation is theft.
Yes,
All
without
of it.
a doubt.
All of it, 100% of it.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
Now, the smaller stuff is the stuff that I'm really drawing up for question, because we're never going to probably win the debate on, say, property taxes or federal income tax. And not to say we can't win that debate. That's just a much bigger fight.
It's not about winning the debate. I think it's about making real decisions and getting away from this progressive ideology of direct democracy,
right?
And getting back to that republic,
and that
right?
R.O.A.R. That's
reclaim
what
our
this is
American
what this
republic.
podcast is about: is trying to educate people to let them know that taxes themselves was first off designed as a voluntary tax system, and it still is. But for whatever reason,
we still call it that, but what we've done is we've turned it into contractual law. So thereby, when you sign your first IRS form, you have made a contractual obligation to pay the government a certain amount of money out of your pay because you were set up as a stock certificate.
Yeah, that's why your name
for the Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank that we've got.
That's why your name is completely capitalized on your Social Security card, for an example.
Well, and on your birth certificate. It used to be the church it was the church that kept your birth record in script prior to 1932, and after 1932, it became the state's job, in which they gave you a stock certificate number at the top right of your birth certificate, and your name is spelled in all capital letters. Before that, the church kept your name in script. That's when people would ask, what's your Christian name? That's what that meant.
Well, we're getting into the what a lot of people would think is conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
You and I don't feel this is conspiracy at all. This is sort of common language for us.
Well, it's self-evident truth. I mean, people aren't bad, but people do bad things with the best of intentions.
Right.
But that doesn't make them evil. It makes them human.
Right. I just want everybody to think about this for a second. When you see these little PR stunts and they make you warm and fuzzy inside, they are good things. But we don't have to steal from people to do those things. We can ask people for help to get that stuff. So, like, if you have a beautiful park in the community, don't steal it from off the backs of the people. You can actually fundraise for that park. You can ask people for donate time, like cut the park. You don't have to necessarily have to have a landscaper come in, take care of that park. You could, as a community, take care of that park. There's no reason why you need to take money from another person, and you can't justify. There's no justification for stealing whatsoever.
No.
And that's what I see people justifying it with their own themselves. Like,
it's a gray area. We create gray area.
At the end of the day, particularly if you're religion, you're going to go to the pearly gates. Like, you're going to go to the gates, and you're going to go to the book of judgment. And
if you're living the principles,
so like, I want the reason why I'm really spouting on the religion part is because I know we have a lot of religious people here, and I just want to change their mindset on how they think.
No, see, I don't want to change their mindset. I want to remind them. It's the principle.
Sure.
Principles don't work when they're preached. They only work when they're practiced. And so you don't even have to talk about the principle. If you live the principle in your daily life, it works. And that's what it's really all about. We know that as Christians. We should know that as citizens of a free republic.
It all went away during that progressive period. I'm
the
pretty
slow
sure.
boiling of the frog, yeah.
Yeah, and it just, the slow boiling is just from the last essentially 100 years, right? We're just slowly boiling right at this point.
Yeah, so we haven't jumped out of the pot. But there's some that are starting to crawl up the side
But isn't
of the
that
pot.
Usually how your Revolutionary Wars usually is based off of like our Revolutionary Wars based off of taxes, weren't they?
Well, taxes, but then anytime you look, it really comes down to I'm going to get real philosophical here. It comes down to even more than that. Taxes, taking from people through force, is a way of control. Right. If we look at what the first gift God was that God gave man in the garden, it was the gift of free will. But yet, even in our churches, we try to control people. So who committed the first sin? It was Lucifer. And what was that sin that he committed? He committed the sin of lust of power. And why did he lust for that power? For control. So when it comes down to it, taxation is a form of control, forcing people to give up their money. Regulatory law is a way to control. Licensing is a way to control. So what happens is this self-evident truth, this faction that's sown in the very nature of man that Madison was talking about, is a very Christian concept, is a very biblical concept, that there's good and evil in everyone, and that those that lust for power are committing the original sin. The love of money is the root of all evil because money represents power, and the love of it, the lust of it, not the money itself, but the lust of it to have power and control over others.
I know some of those people.
Is the sin. Right. But what has happened is we know this principle to be true, but we preach it but don't practice it. See, the principle doesn't work when we preach it. The principle only works when we practice it. And we know that to be true in Christianity as well.
Well, like I said, you don't have to be religious or spiritual to understand that theft is bad.
That's
I don't
right.
think anybody likes to be stolen from.
No.
So doing the right thing and not stealing from others to pay for a parade, a lemonade stand,
Don't
PR
take anyone's
stunt.
life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness without due process.
Yeah, and that's all really those things are. Is just they're PR stunts. They're nothing more. They're just makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and not everybody should have to pay for something like that. If I misrepresented anything, or if John I can't even say the word right.
Misrepresented anything?
Misrepresented anything? Hit us up. Give us a message. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you guys are thinking. If you guys got any ideas, send them our way. And you guys have a great night.
Good night.